Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Game of the Max and part two of our Hearts of Iron 4 Kaiserreich, the Russian Empire. So, in the last episode, we've just been doing our start off bits. We had the assassination of Krinsky, uh, and then we've just went Black Monday has occurred, and then we've pretty much just been solidifying the state and then trying to get out of Black Monday. We are going to go down the route of restoring the monarchy. I did have someone in the comments want to go down the Eurasianist path, which is a monarchist path, where you go, I believe it's to paternal autocrat from authoritarian democrat. So instead of going with social conservative, we'll go down to these ones, and I've never done it before, so I'm kind of intrigued about doing it. So with that, let's kick it on off. We're finishing up the establishment of the VES, which allows us to start doing missions to improve the economy. Black Monday has left deep scars in our global economy, particularly on the Deutsche Asiatic Bank in Shanghai, which seemed to have fallen victim to unscrupulous business practices and possible insider trader or trading. Our delegation now seeks guidance on how they should vote concerning the proposal to bail out of the DAB. That's the bailout for delegation cities. Let's see how that goes. We're going to save up some political power to jump to early MOB starting out. The need for land reform. Russia has struggled with the question of how to modernize and organize its vast countryside until their interruption by the Great War. The Stolpen reforms attempted to dismantle the mir and the traditional peasant village in favor of modern smallholders. The chaos of 1917 instead brought far more radical changes. The black reparation of peasants, or as peasants took advantage of the breakdown of order to seize lands for themselves. The subsequent SR cadet land reforms of 1923 were as much as an attempt to restore order as they were a redistribution campaign. The reforms granted villages significant autonomy while also allowing peasants to rent nationalized land at a very low price. Unfortunately, the campaign otherwise results were mixed. Though the peasants gained a great deal of acreage, the reforms were tarnished not only by enormous corruption in the land committees, but also by unclear intent over who would be receiving the land. The government purchased, quote unquote, vast tracts from landowners at below market prices, but much of it would find itself in the hands of industrialists and wealthy peasants rather than the needy. Attempts to fix the reform flaws crumbled under the bickering of the SR and cadets. President Sannikov thus finds himself in the inevitable job of correcting 2 decades of old coalition shortcomings. No one is keen for a repeat of the 1932 peasant revolt in Tambov, which saw peasants gunned down after riots erupted in the wake of the cadets' refusal to renegotiate land sales. The SZRS Minister of Agriculture, Pavel Agiev, had outlined an ambitious program to correct past errors. Councils of judges, civil servants, agronomists, and surveyors will be mobilized across Russia and granted the authority to rule on cases of land division. Most are expecting the councils to simply parcel out fresh land. However, meeting the peasants' wishes must be balanced with consolidating uselessly small plots into livable uh, allotments, even if some peasants are then obliged to find work elsewhere. Land is only part of the equation. Russia's farms must be modernized and expanded if they are to feed not only the growing population but also the state's coffers. Let's see how this goes. Depending on our choices and events as the land reforms ongoing, the mission will potentially grant stability, political power, and party popularity. Very nice. And that's up here in our decisions. All right, we've finished. Well, that's electronical, mechanical. Banking bailouts. Multiple banks in Moscow and Petrograd have informed the Ministry of Finance they are rapidly running out of their cash reserves, and most of their investments, often secured by German bonds, have collapsed alongside with German financial markets. The news is gloomy. If the Russian state bank doesn't bail out at least the largest of these banks, the domino effect could continue uncontrollably. However, it is impossible to shelter all the banks at risk. While many financial advisors argue that the investment ability of the bank should be our priority, such a bailout would be seen as prioritizing money of investors over that of the common man. Prioritize fiscal stability or prioritize the savings of the people. We gain a little bit of political power. We get the same modified Black Monday by plus 10% consumer factory goods, negative 5% stability, negative 15% factory output. We can increase national populism and not the people. The people's getting pretty high. We can always do this, which gives us a little bit of stability, kills off some of the popular. I want to do military anger So we're gonna prioritize the people saving, lose the political power, keep the popular angry, happy. Oh, it doesn't actually. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if it just has to be 8 or more. It's the military is 5 or above. Um, if it okay, so we're just gonna prioritize fiscal stability um, for the political power, and then they'll just be at 5. Cool. Kurt von Schleichler is appointed the Reichschancellor in Germany. If you guys would like to read this here, another Junker serving the Kaiser. So I wonder if they're going to do the socialist revolution in Iran. With news reaching Tehran of the Shah's death a few days ago, the people of Persia took to the streets to demand the abolition of the monarchy. As of last night, it appears the socialist protesters have successfully taken control and pushed the Qajar dynasty out of the country. The first socialist state in the Middle East has been declared. Persia, or Iran as it is now called, has been a place of instability and troubles ever since the end of the Anglo-Russian occupation of the nation. With the Middle East growing increasingly unstable, many wonder how the new socialist government will respond to the possible threats or challenges in the region. Socialism in the Middle East? Question mark. I wonder if they're going to do the Schleicher cabinet. Do radios. Creation of the VES. As Russia bears the aftershocks of Black Monday, it's become starkly clear that the country is facing the worst economic crisis in a decade. The Verkhovny Ekonomiske Soviet, or Supreme Economic Council, has been established in record time by presidential fiat, but it faces a daunting task. The VES chairman and Minister of Industry and Trade, Alexander Voneskinsky, nevertheless delivered a widely reported speech to the Duma within days of his appointment, laying out Russia's immediate strategy for economic recovery. With even short-time credit from abroad almost impossible to find and politically unpalatable, the state has stepped in to recapitalize and nationalize a sizable portion of Russia's insolvent banks, placing them under the jurisdiction of a reorganized state bank. Given the weak reputation of the government as borrowers, plans have been put into place to issue bills of exchange through democratic or domestic proxy banks, termed work bills, in its hopes that the private sector investors will keep money flowing internally, with the goal of having these investments reach maturity once the economy is stabilized. Paired with harsh but focused austerity measures, the VES plan intends to balance finances by limiting government spending and maintaining internal liquid capital flows and public work programs. Though ambitious strategies are already being workshopped for a total industrial transformation of Russia, the short-term goal is to maintain employment levels as high as possible for simple substance. If all goes well, Russia's working class will be able to bear the brunt of the austerity with the government support and be ready for an economic counteroffensive to win back the ground lost. Let's hope we get through this quickly. And with that, let's do the Voshkod project, and I think it's labor conscription. I know for a fact this one is this one. So do the Voshkod project. A question of funding. The consolidation of banks and issuing of the work bills has succeeded in bringing in some liquid capital from domestic investors, but it's a far cry from the total needed for all of the state's expenditures and debts, with the VES fervently attempting to gather as much money as possible for the state's many planned reforms. The state has come to make the difficult choices of who to sacrifice for the nation's sakes. The VSS has outlined the three possible approaches. First is to drastically cut military expenditures. This would entail ceasing procurement of new weapons and furloughing as many troops as safely as possible. The Stavka is incredulous at the suggestion that Russia's defenses be weakened to such an extent, to say nothing of their salaries. The second option is to instead target the public. Austerities can save rubles from otherwise being spent on social services. More importantly, the government can force farmers to once again sell their grain for export rather than waiting for prices to rebound. The peasants will be furious, but the state is struggling without the crucial agricultural exports that underpin much of Russia's budget. Finally, the third approach is to draw foreign credit into Russia, no matter how unfavorable the terms may be. Given President Savinkov's promise to break Russia's economic slavery to Germany, then he will see such a decision as a surrender to the power caused by the economic catastrophe in the first place. So Germany gets 1 point into economic influence, negative 5% popularity change for national populism. Popularity changes by 1, lose 10% national populism popularity. or gain military chaos, which grants army experience gain negative 0.25 daily, division organization negative 10%, factory output negative 10%, dockyard output negative 10% for 180 days, and it changes military anger by 1. Um, people's already high. I was really wanting to do the military, so though this one actually offers the worst of the, in my opinion, the boosts. Now we could do the German one, which would put them at 8 influence, and then we can start doing this for ending the Vilnius agreement, which someone said I am pronouncing that wrong, so I will have to look up how to say that. But if we do these, we also gain stuff. So I'm not actually mad about the change. So let's do some concessions to foreign industry should get us results. Because then we can go after this to do Third Europe and then end the Vilnius. I'm just going to have to look up how to say that. The vote passes for the debt relief. Very nice. Constitutional victory in Bulgaria, which means they're social conservatives. Yeah. Land reforms begins. To destroy the peasants' common land is to destroy the soul of Russia. However, it's no secret that traditional strip farming is not only inefficient, but also the central Russia simply lacks the land needed to sustain all of its peasants. If every Russian is to prosper, then there is little choice but to consolidate fields and direct the excess rural population to nearby cities or across the Urals into Siberia and Turkestan. Hopes are high that these efforts will, when paired with farming mechanization and new agronomical colleges, increase crop yields exponentially while respecting the Mir's traditions. As Council of Land Division has appeared across Russia, the new reform program has entered its first official stages. Vast tracts of land have been earmarked for nationalization. Thousands of surveyors and judges are busy working through a decade of legal backlog. New artels, trade cooperatives have been established to house and provide work for influx of peasants into towns and cities. Unfortunately, not everyone has been pleased to discover what the reforms actually entail. SZRS party offices have been flooded with letters addressed to President Savinkov demanding he punish ministers for misinterpreting his orders. The elderly of many villages are furious that the state has given rural officials not only a veto on the election of village headmen, but also reserved the right to appoint one if the locals prove difficult. The consolidation of land strips have flared tempers as well. Many peasants want land. Few are keen on redrawing boundaries or leaving their home village outright. Even the agronomic college scheme has received vitriol, with some letters arguing the time spent in classroom is less time spent in the fields. Though the party spirits have somewhat deflated, many are adamant that the reforms must proceed as planned, and these are simply growing pains. There will undoubtedly be more opposition in the future. Time will tell if the party is willing to pay the cost of confronting it. Keeping the impact minimal if we can. This needs to get done no matter their reaction. The end result of land reform will be better. That's what we want. You want to make this as good as you possibly can. So now, this is where the VES comes into play with it being done. So if we go into our decisions, you see right here, for 25 political points, we established the Petrograd industrial region. For 60 days, you add permanently one max factory and state, and then 10% local construction speed. So you get it all along here, and then we also have it back here in like Samara, near Kazan, up here in the mountains of Perm. So I mean, what we can do is we can come into here, look at states. This is what I was talking about in the first episode. If you look at your states, everyone that shows green here is where you kind of want to build, or even like blue is, I think, the best. But any of the really light green states are where you want to be at. So I think Petrograd would be one. These ones are all good. Novograd's good. So let's go back into our decisions. See, Samara's probably the best. Zarina's one of the best. So we're going to do that one, that one. Novograd's not bad, but Petrograd would be better. And Smolensk is really good, but I don't like building along the border here because this is going to be where most of the fighting is. And if you also like to see, all of these are part of the Cossack host. All of these are part of the Alash autonomy. There's more Cossack hosts over here. We could do a Vladivostok industrial region because Vladivostok's a good one. So there you go. That helps with the Voshkod project as well. So famine breaks out in Sichuan. Not much we can do there. So as we're continuing demonstrations in Petrograd, with the CZRS now having control over the Supreme Court, the last legal barriers to Savinkov's dictatorships are being removed, and the opposition is furious, seeing their hopes for Savinkov's fall slip away. Yet another demonstration was held in Petrograd, with many of the Republicans left decrying Savinkov as a tyrant hell-bent on destroying Russian democracy. Let them demonstrate if they must. Lose 5% stability and negative 5% national populism. Let them demonstrate if they must. I don't want to lose any more stability than we already have, so let them do as they will. That puts us at 6 popular anger. We might just do a popular uprising. Either way, Savinkov is removed. But I think you want it to be 5 or above for military. So, a failed coup in Beijing and escalations of the Harley County War in Kentucky. That's a new one. That's not one that has ever popped up, I don't believe, so that must be part of the new update. Escalations of the Harlan County War. Since the beginning of the decade, Harlan County, Kentucky has been embroiled in conflict. The IWW and other unions have attempted to organize the miners of the country, facing steep and often armed resistance from local authorities and company forces. This week, fighting in the country, or county, yeah, I think it's miners of the county facing, and then it's counties, as escalated as the Union militias seized control of much of the town of Harlan east of the Cumberland River. Anti-Union forces have retreated to the town's National Guard depot, but the Unionists have not fully captured the town. The escalation in fighting, which has left dozens dead in the past month, is remnants of the brutal Mingo County War of 1923 and has also resulted in unrest across the United States. Not a good year for the United States, and then the failed coup in Beijing. Details are unclear, but following a presumed coup attempt by the Forbidden City this morning, Marshal Wu Peifu emerged armed and sling, but otherwise standing tall. So he has taken over power from Peiyu. Shuffled out. Returned to the Republic. So it's no longer the Qing government. It is the Beijing government. So a return to the public. And the U.S. did get a change, so it's no longer Herbert Hoover. I've talked about this. It's this guy right here. Who's new. But I don't think much of the actual focuses have changed. Officials assassinated, man's live and breathes murder, walks in bloody darkness and dies in bloody darkness. At least some are following Savinkov's word. As of last night, an unknown assailant shot and killed a high-ranking SZRS party official from Ufa, Michael Zindinyapin Stegaman. A manhunt has been launched, and at least 17 people have been arrested for possible connections to communist activities in Ufa. Stegman was a prominent old Savinkov's trusted man in the area, and the whole assassination does make the security service look ineffective. A common joke has already been circulating about the VRBO's assassins using Savinkov's own book as a guide to how to assassinate SZRS officials, though naturally it's not a joke that is proper to say, or one might be branded as an opponent of the party. Mi bandito uvanto tanto I plevanto na zonkono. Change in popularity of radical socialism plus 4% in Vladikavka, Tariq, and Chechnya. Resistance plus 15%. I know I am butchering a lot of the Russian pronunciations, so. Plight of the farmers, the market fluctuations hit the countryside slower, but when they do, they hit hard. Farmers live from harvest to harvest, and right now they will not make a profit for the next harvest. Russia, like much of Eastern Europe, has traditionally been an exporter of agricultural goods, and now local peasants and large landowners are looking at an uncertain future. Stories are being told of Ukrainian peasants burning their wheat as they cannot afford coal, and such a future may soon be in store for Russians too. The situation is not helped by SCRS-supported land banks that granted easy loans for farmers, which have now backfired on the farmers who were relying on stable harvests. Everyone has it tough, or start a debt forgiveness program. We lose 25 political power, but the popular anger goes down by 1. Modify Black Monday by plus 10% consumer good factors, negative 5% stability, and 5% factory output. I'm going to drop the popular anger by 1. Well, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to save my political power. And everyone has it tough. We're at 6 now. We just need to build up our military's anger, which we will be able to do with the Voshkod program. So I probably am also butchering that pronunciation, but there's not much more I can do than just pronounce stuff wrong. So yeah, this puts these guys over here. The Legation Council votes on providing aid to the Sichuan province, which is having its famine. So these guys will do this path. And then this path as well. So, looks like war in China is going to be a thing. Tanks. Get better artillery improvements. Then, oops, that was not the one I wanted to click, but it's okay. Basic machine tools done. Dispersed industry. Production efficiency gain for infantry and support equipment. The Kievan kerfuffle. The ruler of our de facto protectorate in Khiva, the backward Turkmen warlord Junaid Khan, has long rejected our generous guidance of his rump state, instead attacking brave Russian sons in Ashgabat and Krasnoyarsk at the height of the Tashkent crisis. He's not taking genius to recognize that Khiva will never truly serve us as loyal subordinates. He is a dog who has bit his master once. The only reasonable course of action is to put him down. Instead, the weak government of Rudenev and Makarov rewarded this man dog with recognition of his illegal control over Transcaspia and the abandonment of any real Russian domain over the Kievians. This varying course of action has been spearheaded by our leading agents in Khiva, the Kornilovit General Ivan Zestev, who has gone native, aligning himself with Junaid Khan at the expense of his homeland. To rectify this mistake, we moved to force Zestev out, blackmailing him with dubious charges of corruption. He's been replaced with a much trustworthy court advisor, General Vasily Ivanovich Morozov. In response, Junaid Khan has placed General Morozov into glorified house arrest, restricting him from leaving the old city of Khiva or interacting with the Russian-sponsored Khiva military school. Junaid Khan's brazen acts have threatened to dismember our informal control of the region, when our remaining agents in Khiva report that he intends to strengthen ties with the rogue Turkestani Republic. Without the full support and control of the military and intervention in Khiva over Junaid Khan's provocations would be dangerous and difficult. Instead, our agents within Khanat has proposed that we provide clandestine support for the imprisoned Kievan Khan, who, if restored to power through a coup, would certainly prove to be a pliable puppet. In the meantime, we will have to swallow our pride and ignore the mad dog in Khiva, lest we provide him with any more popular support by acting against him. Lose 25 political power, or forget a coup and ignore this fool. I would like to prepare a coup the sooner the better in Khiva, but forget a coup and ignore the fool, because I want the military anger. Also, Khiva will fall in a short while. Citizen Romanovs, with the current claimants to the Russian throne, albeit only in the minds of the monarchists, is former Grand Prince, now common citizen Kirill Vladimirovich Romanov. After the death of the Tsar, grandson Nikolai Kirill, who is the first cousin of the Tsar, became the de facto heir. After the sore disappointment of the monarchists in 1921, as the monarchy was indeed not restored, they have been reasonably conciliatory. Kirill himself has been known as the Republican Tsar due to his siding with the February revolutionaries early on, and his subsequent support for the Republic if it is the will of the people. Kirill's son Vladimir is the darling of the press. Young and handsome, he represents the very epitome of the modern royals of the 1930s. Vladimir delights in Russia's vibrant cultural life, takes part in motor racing competition, and is a common host of charity events. Many of these also serve as a vehicle for politics, as the prince is a much bolder proponent of monarchism than his humble and moderate father is. It is Vladimir's strong personality that gives Russian monarchists hopes. Savinkov's ascension has created problems for the Romanovs. Savinkov has nothing but distaste for them, but hasn't yet dared to move against them, or just doesn't even consider them a threat. It does not help that many grassroots Svalbonics do not share Savinkov's hate for the monarch. Quite the contrary, they hold even a rose-tinted view of the Romanovs as martyrs of the Civil War. Kirill has withdrawn from what few public appearances he did before, and the worsening political situation has given Vladimir pause. Despite his initial statements claiming that Savinkov is putting the Republic in order, he has since rebuked any attempt by SDR figures to gain official approval from him. Whispers are the Romanovs have been drafting plans to leave the country on short notice should it come to the worst. Exile them before they start to conspire, or they are of no consequence. Well, I would much rather not exile them if I'm trying to put them back on the throne. So, change of popularity -5% for national populism. They are of no consequence. The Orthodox Church. The Russian Orthodox Church, like much of Russia, has endured the 20th century more than it has lived, caught in a seamlessly ending web of debates regarding eps, episcopal, monastic, and monistic, and parish reforms. The church has navigated the treacherous water of war and revolution, but never smoothly, even in the triumphal revival of the Moscow patri, patri, Patriarch in 1917 was not spared from controversy. Patriarch Tikhon earned a deserved reputation as an able leader in the tragedy of the Civil War, but his allegedly liberal attitudes prompted a reaction that bore fruit in the substantial election of Patriarch Antony Krepozitsky after Tikhon's passing in 1925. Patriarch Antony, a firebrand of the Episcopal faction, wasted no time in riling up confrontation, first by attempting to make all parishes commemorate the Romanov dynasty in their prayers rather than more neutral civil authorities, and later by adamantly refusing to cooperate with any land reforms. The souring of the church-state relation has seen opposition to Antony coalesce around Metropolitan Sergei of Nizhny Novgorod, a moderate with a history of social welfare activism, and who has likely drawn moderate clerics and laity to his banner. Though this schism within the church is rarely discussed openly, its intensity has grown stronger as Antony, declining health, makes a new patriarchal election likely in the near future. With this in mind, many members of the Sergian faction have approached the SCRS for support, both out of practical concerns for mending relations with the government, but in many cases out of genuine belief in uh, Sobundnik's mission. The bishops themselves are unlikely to change their dislike of Savinkov, but with additional help, the SCRS could expand its influence among parishes with little difficulty. This in turn would ensure that Sergian priests are nominated by the laity and open an avenue through which to influence the broader church. The Sergians seem set on supporting the SCRS one way or another, but how much Savinkov is willing to sacrifice to return the favor remains to be seen. Time for a quid pro quo. Political power -40%, stability 5%, 3% change in national populism, and lose one popular anger, or we're okay with whatever they support. They'll freely offer 20 political power and 3% stability. We will do that one for the political power. We are about done with the Voshkod program. All right, that's done, and we're going to do the third Europe now. The Voshkod program. Since Russia was first hit by Black Monday, several efforts have been made to deal with the crisis. Few would doubt these have been effective. The economy dealt with the worst effects of the depression and is now speeding up along the road to full recovery. But despite the government's efforts, many problems remain, more than a few of which predate the crash. The landless and unemployed wander Russia in search of work, while in much of the countryside, the Republican government's failed land reform holds back the country's full potential. The biggest of these problems lie with the Russian industry, or rather the lack thereof. Compared to the modern and industrialized states of Europe, Russia is pitifully backwards, but simply there are too many men and too few factories. In 1935, the SCRS announced the Voshkod program to industrialize Russia and solve our economic woes. The program was put on hold because of Black Monday, but now that we've recovered from the crisis, the time is right to restart it. Landless farmers, unemployed workers, and vagrants will be enlisted into a professional army of laborers ready to serve the state and wage an all-out war against the backwardness which has plagued Russia for so long. In addition to the rapid industrialization promised as part of the Voshkod program, plans are also in work to handle issues of excessive population through a program of massive resettlements in Serbia and Turkestan. Pioneers will construct new communities through which they can earn land and produce food to feed our ever-growing population. All this will be administered through the VES, which can finally shift its focus from dealing with the depression. Of course, the general reaction from the public has been overwhelmingly positive so far. There's no doubt the program will continue to rise in support for the ZRS and Savinkov's rule. After all, who would be anyone against such a patriotic plan? We look forward to the fruits of their labor, and this goes into what I've been trying to do. So, you start out with 80,000 manpower, is how it kind of works, and then each one that you want to do deals with the manpower as well. So you've got um, different decisions you can take that cost manpower, and then you get certain things from them. So like here in the mining center, or the Vorkuta mining center, you get it adds one cost to the province, and then affects for 90 days, or active for 90 days. And after 90 days, you get one civilian factory, 12 steel, and it modifies Black Monday by -10% consumer goods, 5% stability, and 5% factory output. Now, the good thing is you can do this one, the Wrestle Coal, which increases it by 100,000 workers, popular anger by one, and you get building slots in 6 different states, and then you can utilize the army, which gives you 80,000, which gives you military changes by one, or military anger changes by one, which right now our anger is 6 and 3, and then increase in funding, which for 40 political power you get 50,000 workers. So we're first going to hit this one for the 100,000, and then we're going to hit utilize the army. So those take 60 and 20 days. And to start out, we're going to do the I think it's the far north construction trust, because that opens up quite a few. So we'll do that one, and then when we can next, we're going to do the few that give us the steel and different resources. And once the program ends, so this will end when Savinkov is removed, you do get to keep the factories and all of the metals and stuff like that. So that's why it's kind of important. That's why I stick with Savinkov for so long. Most people would already be done and have overthrown him, but I don't. I choose not to until I get some of the program done. Revolutionaries take Mongolia. Much like Tibet, news from the Mongolian capital Urga is sparse. For many years, the status quo of the nation has been the leadership of the Russian Baron Roman Ergen Sternberg. However, recently news has come out that after a revolt in the west of the nation, the revolutionary Mongol Arden Nam overthrew Ergen Sternberg while his army fought in the west. In a press release in a few media groups in Urga, this first 7 of man proclaimed Mongolia people revolution starting the modern Mongolia can no longer suffer the tyranny of aristocrats and regents. They proclaimed a final continuation of the last 2 revolutions. I skipped those because I'm just going to get all those wrong. It's Dawn of Mongolian Party State, so they are now Social Democrats. And here in a minute, we will probably vote passes for the Sichuan province. So Ukraine, it's all different. You're the Social Democrats, you're Social Conservative, you're Social Liberal. You, Austria, are going Social Conservative. Bulgaria also went Social Conservative. You're Authoritarian Democrat. You're a Socialist. All right, so the world's all over the place. As Russia's economy continues to buckle and contract, the public demand for government relief has only grown louder. Hopes are high that President Savinkov, elected as he was on a populist platform, will be willing to intervene on the common people's behalf, no matter the budgetary troubles. Several plans have been prepared for an immediate injection of funds into social welfare programs. That said, the elephant in the room is that these funds can only come from one place at such short notice: the military budget. The army is unsurprisingly mortified that the long-awaited rearmament program is going to be reshuffled into soup kitchens. Their assertion that the army is what it will keep ordering in Russia isn't entirely incorrect either. The government could try to appease both, but party officials are worrying that such a course will be ruinously expensive. So we're at 3%, military anger. So we can divert funds to from the military to alleviate the shortages. Gives us 50 political power, negative 10% war support, negative 1 popular anger, and plus 1 military anger. Or you can do our military comes first and our duty to support them. So you lose 25 political power, gain 10% base war support. Popular anger changes by 1, and military anger changes by negative 1. Do what we can to aid those most effective. Lose 50 political power. Popular anger changes by 1. Or dig deep. The government needs to help out. We gain 5% stability, lose 100 political power, and popular anger changes by negative 2. I'd hate to lose that much war support. So I'm going to increase the... do I want to do this one? I'm going to do our military comes first, lose that 25 political power, and then I'm going to click go into the people to, once I get 100 political power, to try to alleviate that, because the hanging click has capitulated. Because I don't want when this prompts, I don't want that 1 popular anger to pop out, because then we'll be at 8. The vote said question: the SCRS is a patchwork party, one that has integrated various far-right groups and has always been more united behind ideas than concrete policies. It is worrisome that Savinkov's popularity has plummeted so much that there is dissent even in the party. Particularly noteworthy was Yuri Kolchnikov's which leads the Kazan chapter of the SCRS addressed to the Vos, signed by multiple southern chapters. They express worry over Moscow's policies in Kazakh and Muslim regions and fear that these policies are mere increasing popular unrest and crystallizing opposition against the party. Even this kind of careful criticism is not taken well in the Kremlin. When a significant amount of party chapters express their worry, there needs to be at least some action. The tendencies of the SCRS moved 25% towards the side of the Solidarists, changed popularity of National Populism by -5%. Popular anger changes by 1. Should military anger be below 5, it's likely that a revolution would cause a military counter coup. So it has to be below 5. So we're going to do that one. That's going to be our goal, is keep the military anger below 5, overthrow it with the military, or with the popular anger, and then have the military counter coup. Perfect. Meddling in Latvia, liberty in Latvia, backed by Russian arms, the brave sons of Latvia have taken power in their own country and are now in the middle of a constituent assembly. General Yanis Kurelis has emerged as the leader of the liberty struggle, and his connections in political circles of Dinsk and Russia. His patriots are challenged by various liberals and progressives and socialists. The actual liberals are minuscule in importance, and should Kurelis lose, it will only lead to Bolshevik Jacobs Petrus rising to power. Our Foreign Office has already proposed a plan to funnel support to Kurelis and ensure that he can keep Latvia in order under his iron fist. Yes, ensure that he is victorious, because let's see. Wait. Isn't this the guy? Your social democrat, though? Isn't that the communist? Well, we'll just do ensure that he wins. Ergin's generals escaped to Russia following the overthrow of Baron Roman Ergin Sternberg's government in Mongolia. He and many of his non-Mongolian associates were forced to flee the country. Ergin and his generals Mikhail Tonovsky and Boris Rezuin were able to cross the border and escape to Irkutsk. Together with them is Nikolai Casagrande, who was sent as an attaché to Mongolia in 1931 and serves as sometimes of a liaison between Sternberg and us. They've written a letter to Boris Samenkov offering their services into the Russian military, or the army. Welcome back in the army. We gain 4 generals, the 4 generals right up there, and we lose 30 political power. I usually take that. That's not actually a bad deal. 4 skilled generals are increasingly useful. There's the collapse of the United Baltic Duchy, which we had just realized with the Latvian talk. So the United Baltic Duchy, the Baltic German substate of the German Empire, has finally disintegrated after several months of inner strife and partisan resistance by the Forest Brother movement. Across the duchies, any semblance of order has been lost, and Baltic Germans flee their land en masse. Some have ended up in Germany, whereas others have gathered in the free city of Riga, the last holdout of Baltic German rule. The conflict in the Balkans, or the Baltics, have been frozen and will surely renew in the future, but for now, Latvia and Estonia have asserted their independence. That's a bunch of maps made obsolete. Like how that's the worry. Manifesto of the Third Russia, National Populism or National Narodism, Nationalone Narodinistov, stems from the Narodiniks of the 19th century, though Narodonia Volia and Socialist Revolutionaries finally becoming the defining ideologies of the SCRS. Through the decades, men and methods have varied, but our untiring belief in the system and will of the Russian peasants has not wavered. What do we believe in? We believe in the people, not democracy. Tsarism, liberalism, and Marxism do not stem from the Russian people. They are the ideas of elites and tyrants in the community of free Russian peasants that form the heart and soul of Third Russia. What do we believe in? We believe in an undivided and indivisible Russian civilization, one that is of spirit and will and of great fate. We believe in a great union of free peoples under the Third Russia and in opposition to capitalist and imperialist oppression of nations. What do we believe in? We believe in the Voshkod, the leader on every level of society. We believe in untiring loyalty to the Russian cause and exceptional individuals tasked to bring it into reality. What do we believe in? We believe in deeds, not words. Change comes through actions. Power comes through will. Man has no greater cause but to kill and die for the Russian cause. And most of all, we believe in victory. In Russia unshackled and its peoples prosperous and brave, we will inherit the land. Glory to Russia. Glory to the Voshkod. Plus 25 political power. So we got more people to use, and I want to do this one. We could increase funding, or we could reutilize the military again. I'm going to hold off on using the military again. The Yunnan clique falls into a civil war. Is there any place in China safe from strife? If you guys would like to read why they're falling into a civil war. Hopefully it's the NRA that shows up on that one. The farmer strikes. With the first hurdles overcome, the land reform campaign has built powerful momentum. Many Russian newspapers have taken to publishing daily columns totaling the acreage of land given to peasants thus far, alongside letters of thanks to President Savinkov and the SCRS. However, for every success story, it seems another village problems have only gotten worse. No one's great surprise, the field consolidation and migration programs remain the most controversial issues. Out of respect for their independence, the village themselves were given oversight for much of the process, but many disgruntled peasants have simply stopped bothering to listen to them any longer. Worse yet, anger against the reforms has begun to coalesce into open strikes. Farmers and landless peasants alike have banded together to decry the government's alleged Kulkisization of the countryside, stating that the efforts to make farms economically viable have trumped the promises to give peasants a fair share of land. The situation is tense. The violence has fortunately not broken out. Nevertheless, much of Russia's central Black Earth region has been paralyzed by the strikes, jeopardizing much needed shipments of grain. Loyal units of the MVD and Kazakhs were trying their best to restore order without resorting to bloodshed. The party cannot afford another Tambov. This must end immediately. Lose 4% stability. Popular anger changes by 1. So we're at 7 popular anger? Yes. We have 160,000 deployable. Shandong Click declares war on the left Kuomintang, and we've deployed 130,000. So coup d'etat in Siam. Who has taken over? Project, also known by his real name of Rama the Seventh. Rama the Seventh has. Third Europe has completed, and we'll end the Vilnius Agreement now for 5% war support, and then we can do the different things to get rid of the economic stranglehold. We can influence Poland, construction 1 for their election coming up. If they go national populist, they'll formulate towards us, and they can overthrow their government when we get close enough during the Civil War. But I'm going to hold my political power just for right now. We could utilize the army one more time. Hopefully on Rasulko, that popular anger hasn't already gone up. Or has already gone up, so we're not going to get to 8 yet. And you can see here in Petrograd, we have the state modifiers, the VES region. Caucasus reaffirmed commitment to land reform. The Committee of Cossacks, Mountaineers, and Steppe Peoples have gathered in Yekaterinodar for its 7th session since the group's founding in 1922, ostensibly a meeting ground for many different people who inhabited southern Russia and northern Caucasus. The committee has long held a reputation of elitism and parsonages. This isn't terribly surprising, as many of the members are landowners and hereditary clan chiefs who would have little to gain from dividing their estates. As this comes as a shock when the 7th session ruled in favor of formally declaring its support for President Savinkov's land reform campaign. Once the surprise had worn off, the caveat to the statement quickly came to light. This support was contingent on the reform keeping lands within its respective ethnic groups. While sure to disappoint the largely landless Inogondone and groups like the Chechens and Ingush, the statement has nonetheless strengthened the hands of the reformist factions among the Cossacks and Mountaineers. It's no secret that Savinkov admires the Cossacks and many of the Mountaineer people, but the relation with the landowning elite of these groups have decided more awkward from an ideological standpoint. Nevertheless, the SCRS are not ones to look a gift horse in the mouth. The landowners' elite support remains necessary for maintaining order in the region, and the 7th session has opened an avenue for redrawing pro-SCRS factions closer to power. Small step, but steps nonetheless. Vladikavka, Tariq, and Chechnya compliance plus 5%. Cool. Shandong took 3, Mingang insurgency took 7, and Nanjing was annexed. So we'll probably see the Mingang insurgency win. I don't think I've ever seen the Shandong clique win against the insurgency. upward Kolchak's Falcons in a bid to demonstrate the capability of Russian aviation. A long-haul flight crew of Valerian Chikolov, Gregory Bedukov, and Alexander Belyakov have completed their trans-Russian flight from Moscow to the mouth of the Amur River in the Far East. The pilots' faces now decorate every newspaper in Russia, but much praise has also been given to the project's mastermind, Admiral Alexander Kolchak, and the aviation engineers Sikorsky and Tupolev. Despite being a thoroughbred mariner, Kolchak has emerged as one of the most energetic and lavish funders of Russian air industry, seeing an aircraft not only another tool for Russia's defense, but also for his profound interest in exploring the North Pole. Kolchak has already promised that his flight is only the beginning and that a Russian aircrew can be expected along American shores by summer's end. Russian engineering is the best in the world. Okay, so the popular anger is at 8 right now. Not really what I wanted. Hopefully I can bring it down before anything kicks off. So I would like to do this one. That one. Chaos in the capital. Massive illegal protests and strikes have consumed the nation. Yes, we've done our best to destroy the socialist organizations and kill and imprison their leaders, but the Socialist Revolutionary Underground Network remains remarkably strong. Something Savinkov would know from experience. The Moscow protests are led by Nikolai Martinova and Alexander Kolegiev, and despite police breaking them apart multiple times, they have continued for 3 days. The armed militants operating under cover of the protest have intensified their attacks on key SZRS personnel, and in some districts, the policies have been steadily losing confidence in the central government's orders. The situation is even worse in Petrograd, and day by day, protests are spreading in most cities. Almost 100 people have died already, and the only reason keeping the votes from remaining mass slaughter is the fear that the military may not entirely be on our side. So he has to be careful on whom to trust, with the Gostrazia units and a few absolutely loyal divisions handling potential mass executions. Will be a tense night in Moscow. The chaos will drown in blood, lose 50 political power, and change the popularity of radical socialism by 5. So the chaos drowns in blood. I think that's the military one. The end of the Vilnius Agreement. The Russian government freezes the Vilnius Accords. The short period of the post-Russian Civil War recovery was cut short by the global economic depression of 1925, and the only place we could go to for credit was our old enemy in Berlin. In 1926, a Faustian bargain was struck with Germany in the shape of the German-Russian Trade and Credit Agreement. The price, golden shackles by Rheinmetall. The Russian economy grew, yes, but it grew unfairly, unequally, and ultimately turned both the left and the right against the liberal idealism of the Republic. On the 11th of April 1936, the treaty would have needed to be renewed again for its time, for it to remain in power. It was not. While Germany has been offering to renew it, fear of massive economic disruption remains steadfast. The Russian interest rate has soared overnight. We've also been able to trigger tariffs and additional taxes against businessmen from Middle Europe and have gained a legal basis to start demolishing the German economic shackles around Russia. First steps towards liberty, plus 2% world tensions increased. Do this one. Start preparing against the Turkestan area. Oh, complexes are already being built. Whoops. I thought I had already done it, but we are right now making nothing. Germany East Asia declares war on Indochina. A military coup in Japan, so that puts them as paternal autocrats. Oh no. The 1936 Dublin Olympics, the 11th Olympic Games, were recently held in Dublin, Ireland. Showcasing the capital of the young republic, games have proven a large source of pride for her. Once again, French and British delegates have been absent. The syndicalist powers unrecognized by the International Olympic Committee and exiled government lacking men to send. German and American athletes now have seen the most success, closing ties with 27 and 26 medals, while Irish athletes have performed above average, winning 9 medals. We did our best. Indochina declares independence. If you guys would like to read through that, this is usually an always thing that happens. Surely not our model colony. They are not sure. They are surely not model colonial subjects. That gives us 2 civilian factories. White Sun in the desert. We get 2 cavalry units. In here. Let's do organize the relief works. Now we need to save up political power. Support for the Polish National Committee. The Russian-Polish relationship is a stormy one. There's one thing they can both agree on. Germany is their natural enemy. The principal has gotten Roman Dmowski's cooperation with the Russians for almost half a decade now. Originally, the well-known Polish statesman headed the Polish National Committee for the Entente. But after the French and British revolutions, fate brought him to Moscow, the only Entente government still standing, and continuing the fight against the German oppressors. Alliance was made. The Russians will support his underground fight against the German monarchy in Poland, and in exchange, his Poland will be an ally to Russia. His name and party, the National Democrats, commands enormous respect among the Polish right, one we can utilize to destabilize King August's monarchy to our own gain. Fund the Polish activists, or we have other issues at hand. We will strengthen them. We'll fund them. And that again is the National Populists. Solonevich and the Stabs Captain movement, a bodybuilder, a martial arts master, journalist, and a writer. Ivan Solonevich career has been a curious one, and he can justly said to be one of the most famous conservative thinkers of the new generation. In the 1920s, while working as a head of a physical education in Petrograd, he founded the People's Imperial Stabs Captain movement, explaining the Stabs Captains, or staff captain, as someone who runs the unit while the commander is away. The commander obviously referring to the Tsar. The Stabs Captain movement is primarily focused on physical training. They organize sports events, spread information about healthy lifestyles and the evils of alcohol, and run weightlifting and boxing competitions, but they also serve as an ideological movement, one whose members are encouraged to read Solonevich writing and proclaim people monarchism. Thanks to the tireless work of the 4 Solonevich brothers, the movement has spread from Petrograd to Moscow, Novgorod to Smolensk, and many other cities. Solonevich has refused to integrate his movement into the SZRS's All-Russian League of Sports, claiming his movement is already sufficiently patriotic and does not need political oversight from Svobodinsk. He refused close cooperation with the party multiple times, even if he admitted that his support many Savinkov's policies, chiefly his land reforms and stricter lines against socialism. Shut down this nonsense then, or seems harmless enough, change in popularity for social conservatism by 5. Let's do that. We're no longer get the effects from the army after Kornilov, which gave us army experience gain negative 0.5% daily, or 0.50 daily, and division organization negative 10%. The Supreme Commander-in-Chief demands funds. General Field Marshal Pietro Wrangel, the Supreme Commander-in-Chief, has demanded the government increase the defense budget and initiate serious army reforms. A large number of generals have signed a petition to the government that pointed out deficiencies in the current military equipment situation and highlighting the threat of the coming war as a reason why there should be no limits on military spending. We have bigger worries, or the army is our pride. I'm going to do we are bigger worries for the 2 in military anger, because I'm trying to get military anger up to 8 now. The Navy is our pride, so Admiral Kolchak demands funds. The Supreme Admiral of the Navy, Alexander Kolchak, has been running the Russian Navy as his own fiefdom for the past 2 decades, and often complained about the lack of funding for the Navy, which he considers to be the pride of Russia. Citing heightened tensions on the Baltic Sea, he argues additional funding is needed to expand the Russian Navy. The Navy is our pride. Activates missions. If we do not complete a Navy focus within the next year, the Army will be displeased or lose 25 political power. Military changes by 1. Anger changes by 1. So we'll do that. So we're at 6 now. We can't go too far because we still want to do some of these, or at least get some of these done. This one will be done in 7 days. But now we just need 2 more military anger, so we can do 1 here and choose something else. Military infighting. There's always been a struggle for the soul of the Russian army going in the shadows, and more conservative officer corps is worried about the potential of losing it. The SCRS has always had its home in the Radical Veterans Organization and has a lot of fervent supporters in the lower ranks of the military, like NCOs and young officers who went through hell of the Civil Wars as privates. The SCRS political materials are being shared in the garrisons, which has often prompted resistance from superior officers. Conservatives are more liberal-minded and is viewed as unprofessional, but this schism keeps growing between the true Svalbardniks and the ranks and those soldiers who value professionalism above loyalty to the Vazad. Change base stability -3%. Change in popularity paternal autocracy by 5. I could do something for the Navy. Won't. Belgian Declaration of Independence. So sick of German oppression and the disaster of black money, Belgian independent movies throughout the country have been revolting and performing guerrilla strikes on the German army. Through their recovery, the German Empire has been unable to support Albrecht I to its fullest and let the situation escalate beyond their control. Good luck to Belgium. They are now free and they are under an authoritarian government, but they'll probably go social conservative. Doctor's sausages. Though the Svobodniks have been called butchers before, party flags fluttering atop a meat processing plant is still a novelty. Much fanfare is surrounded the first Moscow sausage factory, built with the experience and capital of both Russia and Germany, as a testament to what can be done with two sausage-loving nations work together. Sadly, its finances and management left much to be desired. Profits were meager since opening in 1933, as the Moscow sausages proved unable to compete in Europe and were too pricey for Russians. The factory German owners, Helbert Starter, Verston, promptly sold to the Russian government in the wake of black money for a pittance. The SCRS have also since transformed the first Moscow sausage factory into a prototype for their economic vision. The factories come under management of the SCRS-led Artel, a traditional form of trade cooperative given a national populist makeover. With the government's blessing, brother workers now run the factory under the supervision of a party-approved elders. Modern dormitories and a church have been constructed near the factory grounds to better develop a sense of community. Initially, the plants have been retooled to produce more affordable products. Rumor has it that President Salvikov himself insists that new, heartier sausages be developed. After all, Russia's people will be hungry as her factories with the work that lies ahead. It remains to be seen how practical such a transformation can be across Russia, but these sausages stunt has captured public attention. The new and ostensibly healthy Dr. sausages are already a hit. Sausages for everyone gain 1% stability. You get a sausage, he gets a sausage, you all get sausages. Shamar declares war, or Jabal Shamar declares war on Najd and Heza. We're going to utilize the army for that one military anger. Then we just kind of have to hold on for a few minutes because these do take 90 days, 90 days. The assassination of Ibrahim Chulukov. Grim news has arrived from the Caucasus. Ibrahim Chulukov, a long-standing friend of Russia and a pillar of government support in Chechnya, has died after an attack by unknown assailants. Chulukov and a group of relatives stumbled into an ambush as they were returning from a hunting trip on the outskirts of the town of Ster Atagi. Struck by several rifle shots, Chulukov perished almost instantly, though Chulukov's companions returned fire. None of the ambushers were captured, and any dead were carried off the field before they could be retrieved. This is unwelcoming news in Moscow, which has watched with concern as control over Chechnya and Ingushetia has weakened in past years. Chulukov was instrumental in liberating Chechnya from unholy alliance of Bolsheviks and Uzun Kadazi's Caucasus Imamet during the Civil War. Since then, Chulikov's family has acted as vital intermediaries between the Russian government and local Chechens, crushing dissidents by rewarding loyalty generously. With Imbragim's death, the Chulikovs have been fatally weakened. Other members of the broader Gindagorny Tayep clan have already merged to carve out pockets of influence, and many make no secret about their hostility to Russia. Policing the region will likely become substantially more difficult. Lose 4% stability. Vladikavkov, Tehrik, and Chechnya gain 10% resistance. Boy, that's been tongue twisting me all night. I've not had a good speaking turn tonight. The Congress of Ariel, with the recent independence of Belgium from their former German masters, the inevitable question that arose was simple: what's next? The two nations sent representatives to the tiny Ardennes city of Ariel in German Luxembourg, near the border with the southern Wallonia, and their future path for Belgium in Europe was decided. Though the Germans proposed formal recognizing Belgian independence if Brussels would return to the Reichspakt, Belgium was not convinced. Whether or not the negotiators' demands that the Reich also hand over Belgium Luxembourg was intended as a slight. Negotiations at Ariel quickly broke down and the Germans withdrew. For now, at least, Belgium is on its own. Belgium returns to the world stage. Mustafa Kemal seizes power in the Ottoman Empire. You guys are like that. This is a return to 1913. He is their prime minister. Our cannon has been researched. I'm going to research anti-tank now. Under DMZ instead of the naval. Naval one is odd. Now, for the naval one, I will build my anti-tank because of the reliability. Plus 100% soft attack, plus 100% defense. I know hard attack and piercing is really good, but man, this is some crazy designs for that. Organized relief work is done. We can do here's the communist path. Should address the army right now. I'm gonna just keep going through the Black Monday, trying to get some of this worked off of us so we can actually start producing things, which we have slowly started to begin again. Get some more military members. We can do the Siberian. Let's see, military factories. Can't do any of these. This is the one I really, really want. So we've got to wait a little bit longer. Let's do the cheapest of all these, which is these two. Which we have 100,000 to use, and once we get these two back, we can afford that. Well, let's see. That's 150 days, so 90 days. Only doing the 90-day ones. The 150-day ones I probably won't do. Republicans win in the Serbian elections. Can idealism really survive in the Balkans? So they're like social liberals. Yeah. Secrets in the army. Officially, the army is loyal to the Voshkod, but our security services have been noting more and more suspicious meetings around old generals. The loudest Svalboniks are being kept outside of inner circles, and discreet discussions have been happening in cliques around men like Grovdivsky, Denkin, Markov, and Wrangel. Klipikov has suggested treason and proposing military purges, but such an option has also carried tremendous risk, given how much of the army seems more loyal to their civil war leaders than the Voshkod. We will observe and prepare. Lose 3% stability, change popularity of paternal autocracy by 5%. Radios researched. Just can't click this yet. We got to do these first. Then we can go ahead and click it. But once these three propped, I'm going to click the few I want and then go on from there. The land reform in Turkestan. Turkestan, which in Russia refers to the entire Central Asian, has been a destination for Russian excessive peasants since the Stolpen reforms, in which migration slowed somewhat over the past decade. It has increased drastically as the SCRS owns land reform has gotten underway. Since much of the arable land in Turkestan has already been settled in 1910, many of the current settlers are instead decamping around Kyrgyz steppe, which has drawn the ire of the locals, particularly the Kyrgyz or Kazakh nomads who are accusing the settlers of disrupting their traditional migration routes. Even the Kazakhs, typically the police and arm of the Russian state in the region, have voiced their complaints about settlers stealing unused land that the Kazakhs kept for their herds. Nor has Turkestan escaped controversy, though facing fewer settlers. Turkestani villages have been singled out by the government for similar consolidation and modernization campaigns as their Russian counterparts. The tradition from the region's quasi-feudal Kishlak to the more modern Shurkat has proven controversial for many of the same reasons that it has in Russia. The peasants dislike consolidating fields and resent the supervision of outsiders. However, the situation is far more volatile in Turkestan, where the locals are claiming that some jurisdictions or justification that the councils of land divisions are overwhelmingly Russian and biased accordingly. Central Asian officials and peasants alike have banded together to demand that the local tribunals be established to prevent the interests of the indigenous population. There's little doubt that these tribunals will hamper the reform program, and so several party leaders are quietly suggesting the army and Kazakhs be mobilized to nip the problem in the bud. Deal harshly with this, or agree to the tribunal. I can't afford that, so lose 2% stability. Popular anger changes by 1. The end of the land reforms will be better, and the Kazakhs rebellion will grow stronger. I would love to do it for the land result, but we just can't do it. So we'll lose 4% national populism popularity. I really need these done, and I really want the mining one done. before we overthrow it. Greece joins the Belgrade Pact. Romania also does. Foundation of the Belgrade Pact. Zudi secures power in Yunnan. Troubling. So the left Kuomintang, and if these guys win, that means China will probably be socialist during this one. All right, perfect. So we're gonna do this one for the which removes Black Monday. It's 120 days. It's 180 days. 180 days. This is 90 days. We'll click on these, but they won't finish in time. So we'll click on these. Once these are done, we're going to utilize the army and overthrow Savinkov. But with that being done, we'll read this, and then we are going to end the episode. Restorative Labor Services decree. Like after the Civil War, Russia's prisons are full of traitors and other miscreants, unpatriotic protesters and strikers, communist saboteurs and provocateurs. German agents, the list is long and severe. However, many of these crimes can be made right through the service to the motherland. While the hated Katorga penal labor system was abolished in 1917 as a tool of the Tsarist opposition, or Tsarist oppression, a special law was utilized after the Civil War for the Reds. The Restorative Labor Service Decree has once again been dug up by the government, which would temporarily add forced labor in Siberia as a punishment for certain types of criminals. In exchange for work, the sentence of these criminals would be reduced. However, this may hurt the image of Plan Voshkod. It is meant to be a celebration of the Russian worker, not seen as a punishment. Wash away the treason with work, lose 20 political power, change popularity to national populism, then is 3%, gain 75,000 manpower, or just lose 32,000 manpower. I don't. I mean, I don't have a lot of manpower, but we're only on volunteer, and we lose 50% of that to VES. So, um, I'm just gonna say some crimes can never be forgotten. Lose that 32,000 manpower. It still puts us at like over 250,000. So we'll do that. But with that, that's going to be episode 2 finished for our Russian Empire restoration. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.